Happy Tuesday. What is up? Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Javari here with Jared Smith. Jared, Taco Tuesday. Having a good day?
It's
I know it's super
Taco
bright and early.
Tuesday, and it's Hot Dog Tuesday, right? Is that the
Yeah.
vibe of the day? Hot Dog Tuesday?
Okay. So speaking of that, Jared wanted to just gross me out last night, and he ended up sending me this tweet of this guy that was posted by John Boy Media. This guy was at, I don't even know what game he was at, but
It was Yankees-Mets. Yankees-Mets. It was a Yankees fan. He was wearing a Yankees hat.
Of course it was a Yankees fan, Jared. But he took a hot dog, took a straw, stuffed it through the hot dog, sucked out the meat out of the straw, and then took the hot dog, put it in his beer, and drank his beer through the hot dog. That's a no from me, dog. That's a no for me. Why would you?
So the thing about this that got me.
Typical Yankees fan.
Yeah, no, that's like pre-crime behavior, what he did. I can't explain it. But
jail for life.
The part that was the most savage for me, if you watch closely, after he stuck the straw in the hot dog, he made it a point to suck out the hot dog guts from the straw. Again, he could have just poked the hole in the hot dog and then put the hot dog in the beer and started to sip it. But he made it a point to suck out the hot dog guts from the straw before That was
and here's the thing, is I'm a fan of a ballpark Frank as much as the next person. I love a ballpark Frank. I eat a hot dog at every ballpark I go to. Big fan of hot dogs. That is absolutely nasty. That is a jail offense. Like, that guy deserves life in prison without parole after that. That's nasty. So you guys, now you know what not to do. It was actually live footage of Jared at a Yankees game. Just kidding.
Oh, my God. Really no, great. I'm not even that savage. Honestly, even that was too much for me. That was too much for me. Too much.
Jail defense. If you haven't looked it up yet, don't. We just explained to you what it was. Save yourself the gag reflex today, okay? Thank you very much. We got a lot to talk about today that does not include hot dogs, but it does include some Jabara's jabronis, which I feel like sounds like pepperoni a little bit, so another form of meat. Why not? But we do have our Better Up segment. A lot of baseball going on today. Then we have a college football preview. Teams that we're looking to fade, which is considered the Jabara's jabronis. And then maybe some underdog teams that are you could be willing to take a look at. We have Dan Servodidio on for that. We broke down the AFC West yesterday in terms of win totals and winning the division. Today we look at some prop bets with Red Hot Chili Proppers. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's bet it. Starting out with our MLB segment. Jared is the trend, your friend. We made a couple of friends yesterday. Today, we're hoping to make a few more, starting out with the Nationals run line. The Mariners are 0-13 on the run line as home favorites against the National League in their last 13.
Ooh. Mariners are 0-13. Wow.
As home favorites on the run line.
That is a spicy trend. By the way, good. The Yankees trend you gave yesterday was spot on. Home underdogs,
right?
And it was a 20-0, I think. Well, it's 21-0 now. Mm-hmm. Nice win for the Yanks last night. All right, it is Eric Fetty, who is a gas can for the Nats.
Fetty Womps.
Fetty has been wonky.
Instead of Fetty Womp, it's Fetty Womps.
Fetty Womp. Against Robbie Ray for the Mariners, who's been, listen, this is a big spot for Seattle. I mean, they are right on the cusp of the playoffs. There's 5 weeks left in the season. They need these games. So I can't back the Nats with Eric Fetty on the mound. That is just a no bueno for me. So this is an unfriend here to start the morning off, because it's just the fade of Fetty and the Nats.
Fade of Fetty Wap. Who is Fetty Womp? What about the A's versus Marlins, the under? Marlins 8-1 to the under in their last 9 road games.
Yeah, I like this one a little more just based off of right out of the gate because of the two offenses. Remember, yesterday it was Adam Oller, who and I forget who pitched for the Marlins, but that game was pretty tight. Oakland didn't score. Looking at the box score right now, only 3 hits. Edward Cabrera, that was the pitcher last night for the Marlins, who pitched very well. Pitched a shutout. So yeah, I would vibe under here. Zach Logue never faced the Marlins before. Lefty, weird, arm angle. And Pablo Lopez has been pretty good, I think, for Miami this year. So yeah, you got a friend in me. Under Marlins A's. Let's do it.
Okay. And I got 2 Nerfy plays before we get into your Nerfy plays for the day. What about the Rays versus Angels Nerfy? The Nerfy is 7-0 in the Angels' last 7 games against the AL East.
Jose Suarez, who actually has really good Nerfy numbers this year. We'll get to Suarez a little bit.
I actually almost bet the Suarez pitching prop today, but it was so juicy at like -165. I just couldn't pull myself to do it.
Couldn't do it. LJ would stick to the apple juice today instead of the strikeout juice. Corey Kluber on the mound for the Rays. Kluber's numbers have been good this year too. So the Trop has been a Nerfy spot for me, especially the offenses, especially when a new offense comes into town. The sight lines are really weird. I would say yes to this one, not yes to the run first inning, but yes to the trend. Because Suarez's numbers have been pretty positive. And again, we'll get to the walk numbers in a little bit, but Kluber's been solid too. So yeah, I'll take a nibble here. The price matters more than anything else, but I think this one has Nerfy vibes to it for sure.
2 friends. What about this one? Astros Twins. Twins Nerfy is 5-0 in their last 5 against the American League.
Yeah, so I was close to getting to the window on this one. In fact, if I see a plus money pop up at any point, I will bet it. The only hesitation that I had was Aaron Sanchez, who's on the mound for Minnesota today. I don't trust him fully on the road against Houston, and we've discussed the Astros before because remember we bet a couple Nerfies last week when they were in Atlanta. Their home road splits are massive, and they're back at home now in this game. So I would pass on this one, but the numbers match up to a Nerfy. I'm a little hesitant. Astros at home against Aaron Sanchez, who I don't fully trust. But the numbers agree with this trend. So I would pass, but lean to the Nerfy here.
Speaking of the Nerfy trends, yesterday the Nerfies, no runs first inning, went 7-2, back to positive units for the month of August. And speaking of positive units, you are betting 2 Nerfies today, both at plus money, hoping to have some positive units after tonight.
Absolutely. And again, the vibe this year has been very 50-50, which means the price is dependent. It's been a little more Nerfy slight lean towards the Nerfy over the back half of the season. But the first half of the season was a lot of Yerfy. So again, we're kind of in that 50-50 range. And I feel like the price is always the determining factor for me. I've got 2 at plus money tonight. We go 1-1. We will be up
Let's do it.
on the night. Let's start with, obviously we hope we go 2-0, but I feel confident that we will at least go 1-1. We'll start in Toronto, where it's Boston. Excuse me, this game is in at Fenway Park. But it is Toronto, and it is the Red Sox. Plus 110 on this Nerfy. Josh Winkowski, who has never faced this Blue Jays lineup before, again, is in his rookie year. So that's a positive for me. I love betting on guys with fresh looks. And he's 10-2 to the Nerfy this year. Great numbers for Winkowski. Ross Stripling on the other side, 12-4 to the Nerfy this year. Pretty good numbers. Again, 75%. That's above what the major league average is for most pitchers. And he hasn't walked the batter in the first inning all year with a FIP in the mid-ones. So his numbers have been really solid early in games. And I like the plus money vibes. We've talked about Boston before. They haven't been a team that's been above average with their run scoring rate in the first inning this year. And I think Stripling will hold them down for at least 1 inning. And again, plus money I feel confident with. And then I'll go back to Coors Field here. We haven't bet a Coors Field Nerfy in a hot minute, but it's been hot. 3 straight Nerfies at Coors Field. We are now in positive territory for the Nerfy this season. Remember, that was my big hypothesis back in April, was the Nerfy, because of the juice associated with it, would be down units at the end of the year. Right now, with 5 weeks to go, we're on par for that. And again, the Nerfy rate at Coors this year, 43.9%. And plus 130 is implying less than that. So I feel like I've got a little edge there. Dane Dunning against German Marquez. Marquez has been fantastic at Coors, 11-2 Nerfy record at Coors this year. And Dane Dunning, 15-8, lower expected FIP than actual FIP. The Rockies lineup has been pretty average, and I would say the Rangers lineup been average as well. So we'll take 2+ money Nerfies. This one plus 130 at the Westgate. And again, 1-1. We're up on the night. And I got to give a shout out to Mark Lammy. He's got a couple of these bets on the site today.
Yeah, he does.
Cardinals, Cubs, and Marlins Athletics, which matches up with your under trend that we talked about earlier. The Cardinals Cubs is a year fee, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I got some fun bets on the site today with these picks, and I'm going with a couple of plus money Nerfies.
Which you absolutely love to see.
Yeah,
and plus money. You walk this way. Parlay. We'll go through it quickly because we have Dan Servodidio waiting in the wings. But I want to hear your walk this way parlay. That's basically at 4-1 odds at this point.
Yeah, we will continue these for at least another few days. Again, we're starting to get to that point in the calendar where it's getting harder and harder to devote a lot of time to baseball. And these walk props take a lot of time because I got to dig into all of them because I got to figure out which ones are the best. Jose Suarez over 1.5 at the Rays. You talked about Suarez a little bit on the strikeout side. Well, on the walk side, he's got a 67% hit rate this year. And 55% if you include last season. 21 of his last 38 starts over 1.5 walks. That's the equivalent of minus 124 odds. And again, this bet is even odds, so I feel like we've got a little bit of cushion there. Rays are a high walk rate team, especially against lefties, trending up 9.3% walk rate in the last 30 days. That's up from an 8.2 overall percentage on the season. 4 out of the 6 lefties since the All-Star break have gone over 1.5 against the Rays. Aaron Savali, under 2.5. He is at San Diego tonight. 86% of Savali's starts this year have stayed under 2.5. 86% of his starts this year and last season, 30 out of his last 35 have stayed under 2.5. That is the equivalent to minus 600 odds. And we're only laying 70 cents on this bet. You can see the cushion right there. So the Padres are a high walk rate team. That's why this number is 2.5. But it's been a recent stretch of high walk rate for San Diego. And the last 9 games have been weird. They've faced the Nats twice, 6 games, and the Marlins in 3 games. And, of course, if you recall, they just got Juan Soto and Josh Bell, 2 former Nationals. So facing the National League East with a bunch of pitchers that they're very familiar with over the last 9 games, I think has artificially inflated this walk rate just a bit. And now they're facing an interleague team, Aaron Savali, they've hardly ever probably seen. And I feel like we're going to stay under 2.5 here, laying 70 cents. Finally, Jonathan Heasley, over 1.5 at the Diamondbacks. 100% hit rate for Heasley's road starts this season. 7 road starts, all 7 have gone over 1.5 walks, and he's walking more than twice per 9 on the road, 5.8 compared to at home, just 2.5 walks per 9 innings. And he issued 6 walks at the Diamondbacks back on May 24th. So this Diamondbacks team is a good walk rate team. We've talked about him before in the walk this way parlay, and Heasley's just been a walks machine this season. So I'll give it to you one more time. Suarez over 1.5, Savale under 2.5, Heasley over 1.5. The parlay, as LJ mentioned, just under 4-1 odds, plus 376.
Absolutely love it. So that's our walk this way parlay as we're walking our way into college football season, because it's basically like 2 weeks away at this point, 10 days away. I don't even know when the first day is, but it's really coming up. Close. So let's bring in Dan Servodidio.
This Saturday.
Right around, baby. Let's go. Okay, so first of all, I want to start out with some of the under radar teams. Dan, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Great. It's awesome to be back with you guys here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you back.
Yeah.
I know we talked a lot of college basketball with you this season, but let's start out with some college football. We're going to start with some under-the-radar teams. I know that Jared and I both have one. You have 3 under-the-radar teams on your list, so please walk me through them, Nebraska being one of them.
Yeah, well, Nebraska kicking us off on a Saturday in Ireland, actually. It's an early game at 12:30, I think, Eastern time, going against Northwestern. So this is definitely one of my under-the-radar teams. A team that went 3-9 overall last year, But if you bet on them at all last year, you know that all 9 of their losses came by single digits, and they went 0-8 straight up in one possession games last year. This was a team that a lot of their games could have gone either way. They were maybe the best 3-9 team overall last year, if you can call it that. But they had a lot of close losses and could have had an upset win or two over teams like Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin. If one or two plays went differently. So I see this as a team that's going to bounce back. And the thing that did them in last year was the Cornhuskers did not have a good offense, an offense that was a lot of mistake prone, a lot of picks from their quarterback, Adrian Martinez, who's now gone off to Kansas State, but they bring in Texas transfer Casey Thompson, who I think is going to be a lot more consistent as a passer, just going to take less sacks, throw less picks, not as many ill-timed fumbles as we saw from Martinez last year. But Nebraska also brings in Pitt offensive coordinator Mark Whipple, which is a huge deal. He made Kenny Pickett into a first-round quarterback last year and took that Pitt offense, sky high, made them the ACC champs there. So this is an offense that I think is just going to be a lot better. And they're not a 3-win team that they were last year. They're over/under win total 7.5, and I like the over there. But this is a team that throughout the season I could see them picking off a team or two at the top of the Big Ten, making us sweat some of those bets. So if you're talking like spreads during the season, this is definitely an under-the-radar team where I'll be backing them as underdogs if they're facing some of those top teams.
Yeah.
I think with Nebraska, I'd be willing to bet them week to week as a dog, but didn't they lose like 5 games last year that they had like a lead in the fourth quarter? Like it was like some absurd number. So like actually winning games is where I struggle with them, but you're right. They should be undervalued because of their record last year and because of what they brought in this year. So they're a team that I will be interested in the spread markets. NC State's been a fascinating chat this offseason. Everyone thinks the ACC is down, and I know Lauren and I both agree with that sentiment. So there is opportunity in the ACC for someone to extend themselves and maybe prove that it's not a shit conference this year. Why are the Wolfpack that team for you?
Yeah, this is a team that's gotten some buzz this offseason as a possible contender in the ACC. And I see, Clemson is the rightful favorite in this conference. Miami is the kind of the second choice that could push Clemson for that title in the conference.
Yeah.
NC State should not go overlooked here. They're plus 750, I'm saying, to win the ACC outright or the title game at least. And I think this team, they're not the team that's totally under the radar, but I think like over their win total is 8.5, and I like that over. But I also would take a shot at them to win the ACC. Clemson last year had a down year by their standards, and I don't know. Their defense is really good, but I don't know if their offense can be totally back this year. They have an uncertain quarterback situation going into the season, so there's opportunity in the ACC, as we're saying, and I see NC State as one of those teams. They bring back quarterback Devin Leary, who's a legit NFL prospect. He's going to be making that step, going to be a household name in a year or two. I think going to be a top draft pick probably next year coming up. But he's going to lead that offense. And the thing I love about NC State, they're bringing back 17 starters from a team that went 9-3 last year. And a lot of those starters came on the defensive side, which is a defense that ranked 18th in the country in terms of yards allowed last year. And 9-3 record is really good, but this team could have had 10, 11 wins if one or two games they had a close loss on the road to Miami and a close loss on the road to Wake Forest. Those were the only 2 conference losses. If they win one of those games or win both of those games, then we're talking about them as the ACC champs, the reigning ACC champs instead of Pitt, and would have been better than Wake last year too. So I just think NC State overall, their win total I love, 8.5 over. But definitely take a shot on their plus 750 to win the conference.
I mean, why not? I am so down in the ACC, and I'm going to get to that in a second because we're talking about teams to fade this season, and I've decided to call this segment Jabara's Jabronis. Why not? But the other team that you're looking at is Mississippi State. Why do you like them this season to maybe be an under-the-radar team?
Yeah, so, well, first off, Mississippi State has a really hard schedule. So, obviously they're playing in the SEC, but their non-conference schedule is tough as well. So their win total's at 6.5. I do like that over still. And one of the main reasons is that this is a Mike Leach offense that has a third-year starting quarterback, which if you are following college football, you know this is a trend with Mike Leach and where he's been at Washington State, at Texas Tech. And his third-year starting quarterbacks have taken a jump and won 9 games in each of the 3 prior instances in this situation. And so that's Will Rogers at quarterback in his 3rd season running this air raid offense that's tough for quarterbacks to understand and fully grasp. And I think last year Rogers took a step forward in that progression and really had a grasp on it. And this is a team last year just lost, kind of like Nebraska, lost a lot of close ones and games that could have gone either way. So their record doesn't really show what kind of good team they were. Their defense actually was 31st in the country last year. And I think that's a big thing that's going to help them, be solid once again on the defensive front. So if their offense can just kind of keep them more in games, take that step forward. I like this team to, make some noise in the SEC. Maybe obviously not going to win, beat the Alabamas and Georgias, I think. But if they're like, if we end up seeing them as, 3-score underdogs on the spreads against Alabama, I could easily see them covering those, backdoor covers and stuff with this air raid offense that could score in a blink of an eye. So, but I do like their over 6.5 win totals for what that's worth.
Yeah, the Bulldogs have been an interesting team. Stark Vegas, very tough place to play. Mike Leach, I feel like that program needs a little more out of the offense from what we've seen in recent years. So maybe this is the year to do it. All right, I made 2 college football win total bets this morning, under the theme of the overrated, underrated. Let's get to the underrated for me first. And shout out to another college football buddy of ours, Tim Murray, who was the inspiration for this pick. So I rolled with Central Florida over 8.5 wins. And again, this was a team last year that won 8 games. So it's really hard to say that maybe they're under the radar after that. But I think in prior seasons that they had breakout campaigns, people expected more from Gus Malzahn. Well, now we're in year 2, and he just named his starting quarterback, John Reese Plumlee, who is an Ole Miss guy, a dual threat. And I don't know if call me crazy here, Dan, but this is a coach that took Nick Marshall to the national championship game back in 2014.
Yeah.
So if there's a type of quarterback that I think excels under the Gus bus, it's a dual threat guy like Plumlee who can move a little bit. Favorable schedule for UCF this year. They avoid Houston entirely. They face the other top 2 teams in the American, SMU and Cincinnati at home. They should be favored in all their conference road games. Their non-conference home schedule, South Carolina State, that's a win. Louisville, that's a toss-up game, tough game there. And then Georgia Tech, who I think they should be able to handle. And then their road non-conference game is at FAU. So I'm thinking 3-1 right there in the non-conference. And then again, even if they lose those 2 higher-ranked American teams, that's 3 losses. And 9 wins gets me home here at over 8.5. So how do you feel about the Golden Knights year 2 under Gus Malzahn?
Yeah, I like that call. This is a team because that conference is now Cincinnati's no longer got Desmond Ridder. I think it's a little bit more open, and they could easily beat since a team like Cincinnati now too. SMU's the other one I got my eye on. Could make some noise there too, but they
get both those games at home.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of UCF the last few years with Malzahn there too. So.
Let me go to the Big 12 for a second. Obviously, I'm a Big 10 fan. Go Blue, baby. But I look at the Big 12. It is very open this year. I'm going to give a team, an outside team, that you guys might be like, what the heck are you thinking, Lauren? But what about Kansas State? Chris Kleeman started out there, and they were kind of in a rebuilding process. They grinded out 2 8-win seasons in his 3 years. And you look at his COVID season, they only won 6 games, but his whole team was ravaged with injury, ravaged with illness, with COVID. In Kansas State this year, they had 12 players that were on the Athlon All-Conference team. It's the 5th most in the Big 12. There's a lot of pressure on this team this season. They're starting to receive some national recognition. They have several high-round NFL draft prospects. You look at a guy like Deuce Vaughn, who maybe could also be a good outside pick to win the Heisman at 140-1 odds. And then you have Adrian Martinez. They could be one of the best backfield pairings in the whole nation. this team is going to put up points. And then you look at their defensive side of things. They have 2 high-level pass rushers. They have 2 solid corners. They're going to be really good on both sides of the ball. So their win total right now on FanDuel is set at 6.5. It's a little juicy at -160. But if this team can pull out 9-10 wins, it could be solid enough to contend for a Big 12 championship. They have a lot of eyes on them, so they're not going to sneak up on anyone this year. But tough losses are not going to be swept under the rug like they used to be. You look at teams like Oklahoma, like Texas, who Quinn Ewers is apparently going to be their saving grace, which I know, Dan, we're going to get into Texas in a second. Those 2 teams still have the most talent on paper. But after that, the Wildcats should be able to line up and go toe-to-toe with any team in the Big 12. And I feel like the gap that used to be more of a crater between them and Oklahoma and them and Texas is more of a small ditch this year. So why not? They could get a lucky bounce here, lucky bounce there, and maybe be one of those teams that could contend for the Big 12 championship. I don't know. Call me crazy. Call me bonkers. But Kansas State, it could be a good outside team look, Dan. What do you think?
Well, so I will say Kansas State has been one of my favorite teams to bet on game to game as underdogs against a team like Oklahoma or Texas in the past couple of years, and they've done really well against the spread. But as I was saying, Nebraska, Adrian Martinez, now the quarterback at Kansas State, has me a little worried because I saw him do so many things late in the game.
I wonder why he has you worried, Dan. I wonder why.
Late in the game, Jerry, you were saying like they threw away these leads.
Nebraska
and I was
last year.
Yeah, and so that has me a little worried. Maybe he flips a switch. He's like, all right, new scenery. I'm going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think the Big 12, though, is, I mean, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, some team is like looking to step up and just kind of take that reins for the next few years. So it's going to be interesting.
Why
not? Little
not?
Apple. It will be big things in the Little Apple this year, LJ.
Yeah.
The small apple.
The baby apple.
What about under the radar teams? Because I know, Dan, Texas is going to be one of the ones that you're fading. And then you have an ACC team, which I hate the ACC this year, and we'll get into that in a second too.
Yeah, well, so overlooked teams. Yeah, teams I'm looking to just kind of I'm worried about. One is I'll start with Texas because we were talking about them. Yeah. They mentioned they announced Quinn Ewers as the starter there over Hudson Card, which is an interesting situation. There's a lot of buzz saying maybe the boosters had stuff to do with this, and maybe Hudson Card it should be the starter. You know, he was the starter last year at times, so I think maybe he's got more experience. But Ewers is the top recruit. This situation has me worried. The guy has not played competitive football in about a year. He sat out pretty much all last year after going to Ohio State and then transfers over now to Texas. But the guy, I think there's going to be some growing pains early. So if this is a team early, they might not, cover their spreads, and they face Alabama early on. That could be a very tough test for a guy like yours and that offense. Steve Sarkisian's second year as head coach, 5-7 last year. They lost 6 straight games at one point and just kind of fell apart in that second half of the season. And now they're over-unders at 8.5 wins. And I would go the under in that direction. I would definitely not bet them to win the Big 12. This is a team just looking to fade overall. And I think game to game, especially early on when we're seeing what kind of quarterback Quinn Ewers is and what that offense looks like, I think this is a team overall to fade. And a couple quick notes on their offensive side. They had a couple key injuries, season-ending injuries the past couple weeks. Isaiah Nayor, a transfer from Wyoming, one of their top receivers and one of the better wide receiver transfers in the country. He's out for the year with ACL injury. And then another ACL injury, their starting left guard, senior offensive lineman, is also out for the year now. And they also had Ajayi Hall from Alabama, a wide receiver transfer, who's now suspended indefinitely after a recent arrest. So there's a lot of weird dominoes on this offense. It just has me worried going right into the season. We're only a week away from them playing, and they've had a lot of transition on this offensive side. So I think to start this year, Quinn Ewers could be the next, great, first-year quarterback that we've seen in the past who's just going to take the league by storm and be a Heisman contender. But I do think there's a chance, might be a better chance, he gets replaced at some point by Hudson Card. So I think overall this is a situation that I want to avoid. I'm definitely not. If I was going to bet their team total, it'd be under, but I'm just kind of looking to fade them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is a very tough handicap this year because of the looming exits that are happening and how do teams respond to that and what the landscape will look like. All right, let's move over to the Big 10. And before I let you trash my alma mater and tell me why Penn State's overrated this year, let me tell you why I think Indiana is a stone cold fade. So the other bet that I made this morning was Indiana under 4.5 wins. And this was a team last year that went 0-9 in the Big Ten. So you're telling me that they need to more than double. They only won 2 games, period, 2-12 or 2-10. They need to more than double that output to beat me this year to win 5 games. And head coach Tom Allen, he had to replace 5 coaches on his staff, including both the offensive and defensive coordinator. You've got a new quarterback, Connor Bazelak, who comes in from Missouri. Very little talent at wide receiver. And, oh, by the way, what I think is the toughest gauntlet of divisional games besides maybe the SEC West in the country, they have to go at Ohio State, at Michigan State, home to Michigan, home to Penn State. There's 4 losses right there. And, again, I don't see this team, Indiana, winning 5 games. So I'm low on Indiana. You're low on Penn State. And obviously, my bias aside, I kind of agree with you because I do think 8.5 wins with their schedule is a tough ask to get to 9 because you got to face Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State. That could be 3 losses right there. So tell me why you think the Nittany Lions are a team that you would want to avoid this year.
Yeah. You mentioned their win total 8.5. I think that goes under, but also like there's been a lot of buzz of people saying that they can push the Ohio State, Michigan of the world for the Big Ten championship this year, and I just don't see it. So I wouldn't touch their futures odds there for the Big Ten title. But this is a team like last year. They finished 7-6, had a disappointing end of the season. Quarterback Sean Clifford was dealing with an injury and playing hurt, but their offense was very, very bad at the end of the year for me. And especially their run game, which has me worried coming into this year. And you probably know this from watching them, Jared.
The offensive line, really, Dan. That's the part that
struggled. Their running backs overall struggled. And they have a really good recruit coming in, which will be interesting to see how that works. But they needed their running game to be better. And, it starts with the offensive line, which was not great last year. Got Clifford hurt, basically, from just taking a lot of hits and making Clifford do a lot, running the ball, but also just trying to do too much behind the pocket. And I see this offense being a problem again, as it was at the end of last year. And another big thing is that Jahan Dotson, their best receiver last year, their big playmaker, he's gone. He's off to the NFL, which I think is a bigger deal than just any other receiver going to the league. So I see this offense struggling, and I don't see them competing as much as people think with Ohio State, Michigan, even the other big team, the top teams in the Big Ten. But I do think that 8.5 is tough to get to for them. And Sean Clifford, I know he's back at quarterback and all that, but I think he's going to have to do too much again, and it might be a problem. So, I
losing Brent Pry is also huge, Dan. I think that's something that we're not talking about enough. I mean, he was the heart and soul of that defense, the brains behind it. And, of course, he's now the head coach of Virginia Tech. So that's a huge loss, too, because Penn State always just relied on their defense to get them through a lot of those middling Big Ten games. And I don't think their defense is going to be as strong this year. So that's tough. I think it's going to be a tough year for my boys, sadly.
Yeah,
I'm glad you agree
unfortunately,
with me,
Jared.
Penn State guy.
And that's why they were left out of the AP poll. You hate to see it. Okay.
That is
last but not
exactly
least, Dan,
why.
before we let you go, I am down in the whole ACC this year. Wake Forest with no Sam Hartman. Goodbye. Bunch of retread USC quarterbacks with Pitt and West Virginia. They're basically cast-offs from USC. I'm fading every team in the ACC except for Clemson at this point. And I know you agree with me in terms of Pitt, right?
Yeah, I'm fading Pitt. And we were talking about Nebraska taking Mark Whipple, the offensive coordinator, bringing him over. So he's gone from Pitt, and that offense that took the country by storm last year, went 11-3 record, 10-4 against the spread last year was Pitt. So in terms of regular wins, under 8.5, but also against the spread, they're not going to be as good. They overperformed last year, and especially the offense is going to regress without Whipple there. Kenny Pickett is gone, as we all know. They had breakout receiver Jordan Addison. Now he's gone over to USC. So it's a lot of moving parts on that offense, which just has me very much down. They bring in USC transfer Keaton Slovis, replaces Pickett, but Slovis at USC was very consistent, threw a bunch of picks, made some interesting decisions, and never really, there's a reason he transferred away from USC and couldn't stay on there. So I just don't see this offense. This offense going to cost them. And we mentioned the ACC being down, but there's teams that could pick off a team like Pittsburgh because they're also down. Just games that could go either way. So definitely against the spread, if they're favored by double digits over some of the lower teams in the ACC, it might be interesting to fade them in that situation. But just in general, they're under 8.5 win total. I'm looking to go under there.
I know, I like it. One other team that I'm fading, Jabbar's Jabronis, and I do want to see them succeed because I like USC. Their offense is going to score a lot of points, but I'm not sure their defense is going to be able to stop anyone. Do I think they're going to get better under Lincoln Riley? Yes. Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison are going to absolutely dominate that offense. No doubt in my mind that they're going to get better as the season goes on, and they're going to learn a lot from a guy like Lincoln Riley. Is the defense good enough to keep them in games? I'm not sure. I know they made some offseason moves, but last time we saw them, guys, they were giving up 63 points to UCLA. So just something to think about. Everyone's so high on their offense. I'm not sure their defense is going to be able to match it and keep them in these games. So USC is another team that I'm a little bit iffy on.
That's not up for debate for me. Utah's the best team in the Pac-12. That's not up for debate.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. Dan, we so appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you throughout the college football season.
Yeah, thank you both for bringing me on and keep winning those bets. I watch you guys doing the MLB Walk This Way parlay, plays of the day, all that stuff. So keep it up.
Love you, bro.
Thank you, Dan.
Just trying to get through the week.
I'm with you.
Taking it from boys to men, and we're going to the NFL.
It worked out nicely for you this time.
The AFC West. What?
We worked out nicely. Usually we go from NFL to college, and you have to do it the opposite way. But it worked out.
We're transitioning nicely. Yesterday we broke down the AFC West divisional prediction and win totals. Now we're getting to AFC West player props, and we're going to start out with Red Hot Chili Poppers. So I'm going to give you a few. You give me 15, 20 seconds on why you think it's going to go over or under. So let's start with the Raiders. Derek Carr, over under 44.50.5 passing yards for DC.
Under. Too high. Numbers move too much. And again, you're giving me 4 of them here in this little game we're playing. And what are we saying? 75% on average season-long player props go under.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 of 4, I'm betting under. I go under for Mr. Carr.
Austin Eckler, over under 1,400.5 rushing plus receiving yards.
This is the one I like the over on, and I think we're in agreement here. He went over this number last year in only 16 games. He went over it by 100 yards. Over 100 yards. I think he was in the 1,500 range. So, yeah, if he stays healthy, this number will be shredded because he just is the do-it-all back on an offense with maybe the best quarterback in the division, maybe the best quarterback in the AFC, maybe the best quarterback in the NFL. Who knows? Sky's the limit for Justin Herbert, and I think Eckler will be the beneficiary of that as long as he stays healthy.
I love Justin Herbert. Absolutely love Justin Herbert. He's my dude. JH,
that's your dude.
Let's go. Over under 750.5 receiving yards for our boy Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to be making a few TikToks this year, but for a different team.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. So I don't bet a lot of season-long player props, period. I might bet this one under. He's already hurt. Like, he hasn't practiced in a week. And what has been the MO for him his entire career? It's been staying on the field. So this is a big number for a guy that doesn't play a lot of games. Now, if he plays a lot of games, he's in the perfect offense to go over. But I don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to hit to 751 yards. So I'll go under here.
Yeah, I like it. And also Jerry Judy taking it to Denver. Over under 72.5 receptions for our boy JJ.
This is a Russell Wilson premium tax that you're paying for this number. He didn't go over it last year. Now, I know he only played in 10 games, but even his rookie year when he played in, I think, all 16 games, he didn't go over this number. So I really struggle with this. 72.5 is a really high number for a guy that's never cracked 60 receptions in his first 2 seasons. And again, I know Russell Wilson's in tow. You would think that there's going to be an uptick from Drew Lock, but that's a big uptick. And I would say under on Judy. Health has also been an issue for him over the first 2 seasons of his career.
Yeah, and you talked about how you liked the over on that Austin Eckler prop. I actually like his over for just rushing yards, but the rushing and receiving is also, I would pay the price for that too. But I like his over 805.5 rushing yards. He is the team's RB1. You talk about Justin Herbert, how he's able to open the game up for other guys. He's going to be one of the league's 3 down backs. Honestly, I think he's going to have himself an absolute season. Okay, I have a question for you really quick. If you think about Austin Eckler, don't look this up. What do you think the longest rush of his career is? Give me a number.
75 yards.
41 yards. Crazy, right?
Wow. That's low.
Other teams, yeah.
That's low.
I looked that up and I was like, what the heck? But then you look at a team like the Chargers, other teams' defenses are being forced to respect the Chargers' lethal passing game. Herbert to Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. He's going to be able to show off his breakaway ability this season. I think he's going to be able to surpass the longest run of his career of 41 yards. 20 running backs surpassed this total last year, 805.5 rushing yards. I think getting past this is going to be extremely attainable, especially because of the wide receivers that the Chargers have, and it's going to open up the run game for him. So I really do.
Tremendous handicap.
I really do like. Thank you. Thank you. I really do like Austin Eckler over 805.5 rushing yards. Another one that I'm looking at, I haven't bet yet, is Javonte Williams over 899 and a hook. Williams and his running mate Melvin Gordon had basically the same. Well, they had the exact same number of carries last year at 203, which is really crazy that they literally had the same amount of carries and basically the same amount of yards. Melvin Gordon at 918, 903 for Williams. But you look at them during preseason and you look at them in training camp, and he's been giving a bigger share of the load at camp. Denver has the easiest schedule out of all of the AFC West teams this year. He also has a head coach who before coached a team that supported 2 running backs with the Green Bay Packers. So why not bet the over here? I'm leaning it. I feel like I might bet it. I bet quite a few season-long player props, and I bet all overs. But the one, I know that 75% of them go under. I know. But if I'm betting it over, it means I'm super, super confident in this number. I'm not just throwing it around.
Because you're not betting all of them over. You're only betting a few over.
No.
I'll say this about Javonte Williams, and I was looking because I saw you put it in the rundown this morning, and I wanted to see what the vibe was because I haven't really looked at Denver's running backs a lot. I've been focused a lot on Russell Wilson this offseason. They're basically like Melvin Gordon came out and said this week, they want Javonte Williams to be the lead back. And I think he's kind of accepted that role at this late stage of his career. Yeah. So it seems like even though obviously Melvin Gordon's a competitive guy, he wants to be on the field, there doesn't seem to be any miscommunication about who the top dog is in Denver. So
everyone's
I think the narrative definitely pushes this one over for sure.
Yeah, and their new head coach loves his running backs. He loved his running backs back at the Packers. He's going to love his running backs. And I know, obviously, Russell Wilson, like, everyone's really excited about him. Everyone's talking about the pass game. He's still an older dude. Like, I don't know if his game is necessarily digressing yet, but it's going to get there. And I don't think he's going to be throwing the ball as much as he did with the Seahawks. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use the running game. I feel like Javonte over is a good number to get. Okay. Pickswise.com, Jared, 3-star play of the day. Before we get into our best bets of the day, who do we got?
Yeah, Wise Guy and Kyle Lupus and Mark Lamb. You know, we got a lot of baseball on the site today. Diane Knox-Ballas also has her Tour Championship 3-star play up as well. We'll hear from her tomorrow, but you can check out her top pick, which is on the site now. Wise Guy's play is on the Cardinals-Cubs game. I'll get to that in just a moment. Blue Jays Red Sox for Kyle Lupus, and then Mark Lammy, one of his Nerfy picks, is on the site. I'll probably be tailing that Nerfy because we talked about it during your trend segment as well. So there's a lot of action on Pickswise.com to hit up this afternoon. So Get on it.
Make sure to check it out. 3-star play of the day, Pickswise.com, winning you some money. Speaking of the Cardinals, you are on their money line again. You're riding with the birds. Why?
Yes. I can't do my handicap until Lauren gives me her owl sound that is supposed to be a cardinal, but it sounds like an owl. But we're just going to go with it. So last night we split the pair with our Cardinals bets. The trend did continue. We said they were 8-0 on the money line and the run line as a favorite at Wrigley. They split the pair. They won the game 1-0. Albert Pujols hit a home run. Very exciting stuff. We'll get to him in a moment. But I'm rolling with this trend again today. I'm not going to bet the run line today, although odds are the run line will hit based on the fact that it didn't hit yesterday. But we're just going to bet the money line straight up. We're on a little bit of a streak right now. Don't want to say anything, but, 3 straight plays of the day. We'll see.
You just said something. You can't say that.
I know. Well,
you go
it's my
around
job
a
to
streak
talk.
right now. I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, you just said it.
I'm the worst. Honestly, they should put me in timeout for like half of the show.
You're in timeout, Jared.
All right. Back to timeout. Back to the Cardinals. Again, 9-0 since 2020 as a favorite at Wrigley Field. They've won 8 straight games overall. They are sprinting towards the finish in the National League Central, and they got their ace. I don't know if he's their ace, but he's definitely the most tenured pitcher on the team, Adam Wainwright. And he's been pitching fantastic of late. 2-0 against the Cubs this season, 1-0 at Wrigley. He's got a 2.33 ERA in 4 August starts, and his last couple of starts have just been fantastic. His last start against the Cubs was at home on August 2nd. 7 scoreless, 4 strikeouts, 0 walks. Meanwhile, Javier Assad will be making his major league debut. Again, this is the first game of a doubleheader, so the Cubs are a little thin with their rotation. So they'll send a rook getting called up from AAA today. Javier Assad, big league debut. Safe to say that this Cardinals lineup will be the best lineup he's probably faced in his entire career as a rookie making his major league debut. So that's a positive, I think, for St. Louis. The other positive, we talked about Pujols. Goodness gracious, he's slugging 1,300 in his last 10 games. That is the highest slugging percentage in any 10-game stretch of the illustrious career of the great Albert Pujols. He is sprinting to his finish in his final 30-plus games, trying to get to 700 home runs. He hit number 693 last night. He is 7 home runs away from 700. So keep an eye on Albert Pujols. And again, minus 71 here. You got it. I mean, listen, he's been unbelievable. I can't believe he's still going strong at this age. Minus 171 odds sounds juicy. It's a 63% implied win probability. But I see the Cardinals winning this game in at least 7 of 10 scenarios, more like 8 of 10. So this odd, this line should be minus 200. It probably will close minus 180 or higher. And I'm going to keep riding the hot train. Remember last year we did this? We bet the Cardinals like every day for a week when they were on their streak. I'm going to keep going back to the well until they lose, especially at Wrigley where they've been dominant. Game 1 of the doubleheader, Cardinals money line, laying 71 cents at Circa. That's my play of the day.
I like it. Honestly, 8 out of 10 is a B minus and 7 out of 10 is a C minus. And you want to know what they say, Jared? C's get degrees. So you love to see it. Okay, I'm taking it to Max Fried in the Steel City. Over 5.5 strikeouts, laying 32 cents for it. This is an easy play for me. He's the Braves ace, and he doesn't walk anyone. He usually pitches deep enough into games to get his strikeouts and a lot of the time get wins for the Atlanta Braves team. And he's playing in his second game since being back from when he was on the concussion IL. His first start back from the concussion IL, he got 6 strikeouts against the Mets, which is a team that doesn't strike out quite often. And I also love targeting the Pittsburgh Pirates for strikeouts. They're just so bad. They have the second worst K rate in the league. They're averaging 9.26 strikeouts per game this season. And their last game, they punched out 10 times. Max Fried, always bet on him. Over 5.5, only laying 32 cents for it. Easy play. Let's go. Love to see it. All right, that's it for us today, guys. Follow us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Javara. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.